do that, and I'll try to bring the debate of tolerance, intolerance in the spirit of Darashiko and some of the things that we've been trying to do with, Ustad Ji's work. I'll try to bring that in, and we'll go back and forth of some of the things, observations on the Silk Route project that you did.
Okay.
When we talk about the cultural appropriation of the West. So I'll come to that. So before that, let me, so most of these students here, that people that you see here are students of fashion design, theatre. Stanzin is a filmmaker from Leh, who I wanted him to meet you. He's made about 17 films.
Yes.
Then we have Professor
I know.
Jatin Das, who's been on the side of the literary side here in Odisha and elsewhere, and a translator. Professor Chandrabanu is also,
Yes, I know.
You know him, so he wanted to go and meet you and have a beer. I said, you don't have to go, you stay here. So let me get Goutam Da back into the room. And then
JP Das came to meet me. He's a very old friend of mine.
And Bhaswati,
Yeah.
दादा रुक जाओ, अभी आपका air time बाद में आएगा. So Bhaswati in red, she is a student at the Fashion Technology School. She has done some very interesting graphic sketches that I wanted to show you once we get out of the room. So so that's the a team, and most of them.
So you have put me in a trouble with so many talented people.
Maybe new ideas for your next project.
I'm nervous.
Oh.
No, joking.
Okay. So most of these people here are some of them have been part of the Film Society screenings and volunteered to organize the festival. So in a sense, it's a treat for them as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll start, your journey as an artist, when you grew up, in Calcutta. That's what we understand from your biography. What was it like? What were your formative experiences growing up as a young person? Because I remember 1973 you make your first work, and by the time you get to 75 years, the emergency. And we are seeing some cycles of certain kind of appropriation that is happening. We'll touch upon the emergency later, but we would really want to explore your own, growth or trajectory as a person.
Well, I was born in 1950 in Calcutta on the 24th of July. Merely 3 years after our country got independence, and the most disastrous partition of India. If you look into the partition problem, the problem was absolutely for the entire subcontinent. But as a matter of fact, two provinces in the east, Bengal in the east and Punjab is in the west, were partition truncated. So I remember the impact of partition in my childhood. What was impact? Because my father's family, they came from erstwhile East Bengal, or then it was East Pakistan, almost as a refugee. They are very well off. I've been there much later when I made films on many co-productions in Bangladesh. I've been to my ancestral house, but they came as a refugee. My grandfather refused to come, and he said that no, I'm not going. Why should I leave my land? So he was almost forced to come to Calcutta. And I remember when I was 5 years old, he used to tell us, look dear, you have a nice house in your village, and there are beautiful rivers called Padma, Meghna, and so many rivers. So I'll take you there. Because what has happened is a little crazy madness of Jinnah and Nehru. And unfortunately, catalyst agent was Lord Mountbatten in a way. Of course, I didn't understand the implication of partition then. Much later, I realized what he meant. And unfortunately, he didn't survive for long. Just the pain of living your root is something so dangerous. And I remember that, my grandmother, because my mother's side was already established in Calcutta. They came much before my father's family. So they were well established, uh, and they helped a lot of families who came from East Bengal as a refugee. This is, I still remember, visiting family members or the relatives who came from East Bengal as refugee. As a child, my only interest was beautiful sweets they used to make from a typical sweets from East Bengal. But I didn't understand the problem they're facing, why they're living in such a, in such shamble, in such kind of houses, almost like a camp. So that was a memory, I grew up with, because memories of partition. And later on, I realized that this problem is an unending problem for this subcontinent. And you know what's happening now. Everywhere, so much again a divide and rule policies, almost what we've had faced long back. So, and it's a kind of a perpetual tension between India and Pakistan. Okay, during the cricket between India and Pakistan, it is acceptable. Oh, our team, you cheer. But a continuous political battle between these two countries is not very desirable, because we were actually one.
Yeah.
And so this subcontinent will suffer for many years to come, which is very, very unfortunate. And another unfortunate thing is SARC failed.
Yes.
SARC was supposed to unite all these countries together. We would have benefited economically, culturally, politically. However, like the Russians did, they're doing so well in the Southeast Asia. Anyway, forget about the politics, what to do. We have gone through it, and it's very, very unfortunate. But I have only, during those days, I was hearing stories of East Bengal. Much later, I went there and made films. And when I made my first films in Bangladesh, then it became Bangladesh. There's another story, The two-nation theory of Jinnah failed, and Bangladesh came up on the basis of the language. That's why on the 21st of February they celebrate International Mother Tongue Day. Okay, so it's another story. It's came up. So SARC didn't do his real role. I don't know. And when I made a film called Shankuchil, I went to the border. I spoke to the VHF, our border security force, their border security force, and there are so many stories, because border in Bengal especially, in Punjab, there is a geographical division which is very clear.
It's
But
shifting
yeah,
because of the river in Delta.
absolutely, and river in Delta, and after the desert, there is Sindh. Okay,
Yeah.
it was, demarcation is quite clear, but in Bengal it's very difficult. I shot a sequence in a village where the bedroom is in Bangladesh and the living room is in India. It's an unbelievable situation. However, so from the beginning, I had a discordant note, because we came from other part of the world, other part of the border.
So I think the other thing that I was also very curious to know. So earlier you were interested in the theatre movement, the group theatre movement. You were, interested in photography. You started off working as a photojournalist, if I'm not mistaken. Then you landed up. You found your voice in a way in cinema. So if you could trace that journey, who or what were your formative experiences or influences that shaped that trajectory?
Well, I think in my family there was a sort of the atmosphere of literature, music, and interaction of the cousins. Every month we used to perform a small play or a skit or a magic show.
Yeah.
So we were encouraged by our parents. And one thing was almost a must for the children, learning basic music.
Mm.
It's not that you have to become a musician, but if you learn basic sargam, so your mind will be little pure. Because music never tells lies.
Kya baat hai.
Saregama pada nisa, and with 5 komals, it's same all over the world with Bismillah Khan sir.
Absolutely.
We'll say again.
All the universe. is
All the
really-
universe.
Okay.
So music learning was must, so that helped me a lot. And literature, of course, great world literature. We used to get Bengali translation by Dev Sahitya Kutir, a very important publication house. I read in Bengali the great literature of the world. Of course, the abridged version for children. That helped me, and also some Bengali literature of Shukumar Roy was my favorite. And Jules Verne was my favorite. Because Jules Verne somehow, his world is something so imaginary, so, full of fantasy, but, also science fiction.
Yeah.
So literature, music, theatre, and finally photography, because, I got a Kodak Brownie camera as a birthday gift from my maternal uncle. And whenever, I had films, because when you buy films, when you make a vacation, a trip, you buy films. My father or mother used to buy a small film roll for me. Also, you take some pictures. That's quite normal. Otherwise, what you do with the camera. But my passion was to look through the viewfinder and move around. I used to go to the park or in the streets and looking through the viewfinder. And my grandfather was an avid reader. And when he used to read, he never cared for who is around. So I used to go very close to his ears and looking at his ears, nostril and all that, and his glass. So I think that's the beginning of the close-up. Actually, what I was doing, when I think deeply, that every child who looks through a frame, he or she eliminates some space and prefer a particular space. That's framing. Your own choice, I want to look at the space. So it's very natural. Your own choice. That's framing. That is the golden section you really prefer. Even for a visual artist, a canvas, you look for a space.
Right.
That's very important for a visual artist. My space. And your space may be multi-layered or maybe one layer, so many things.
Yes, right.
So framing is like that, you prefer and choose your space, your likings. I think that was the beginning. And finally, because we didn't have any opportunity to go to movie theaters often, because it was quite restricted for children. Only you can say, I still remember my first English film was Thief of Baghdad. And first Bengali film, Bhakta Dhruvo, when Pothirpachali was released, my parents took me to the theatre
Mm.
because they thought that it's a different film. It's about two children and all that. And when I was 6 years old, yeah, of course, I think 6. I still remember that I was so sad after the death of Durga.
Mm.
Because, it's like, losing your own sister. That was the feeling of a child. Otherwise, films were quite restricted. Of course, we had seen almost all films of Chaplin that released in Calcutta. Because Chaplin is someone, who has no sort of restriction, whether it's for adult or for children or for, it's something. In my opinion, Chaplin is a Shakespeare of cinema, in a way. So Chaplin, was our favorite. So was Buster Keaton, Laurel and Hardy. In my childhood, that was and I still remember the beautiful film Oliver Twist by David Lean, where Alec Guinness played Fagin. And later on, I remember the magnum opus, The Ten Commandments and Ben-Hur. But I didn't have any sort of desire to become a filmmaker. But little bit my association with theatre, magic show, photography, music eventually brought me into a medium which has everything. All the elements are there. So that's how perhaps, I enter into cinema world.
I think just to add maybe a footnote for your exploration, what Goutam just talked about, magic show, theatre, music, all of it coming together in cinema. There is a beautiful film by Martin Scorsese, Hugo,
Yes.
Book of Hugo, and he references early cinema history.
Yes.
There will be a lot of layering that you'll see from early cinema history and how Hugo, it plays out in the imagination of a young child. We used that in class when we talked about early cinema.
Yeah, because Martin Scorsese, I think by the time he was 10, he must have seen few thousand films.
Yeah. It's true.
Because he was a
Yeah.
little challenged child, had handicapped child, not handicapped, was
He had
not very
asthma.
well.
He had asthma.
Yeah. And mother was a film buff.
Yes. And growing up in Manhattan.
Manhattan.
Yeah. So you had a lot of theatre, which was showing all kinds of it. Okay, so coming back to your university days, I would imagine in university that would have been after Naxalbari, after 69.
During Naxalbari
Yeah.
movement and
Yeah.
all that.
So it will be
And
good
it was a
to
very
talk- yeah.
turbulent time.
Absolutely. I want you to
Yeah.
talk about it so that,
Well, turbulent time because, all over the world, students movement in Sorbonne in Paris
Yes.
and France,
Vietnam.
War, then, Red Guard movement, and so many, Czechoslovakia and many sort of proxy wars, then War of Independence in Bangladesh, a Naxalite movement which began in Bengal and spread all over the country. So altogether, my youth or the college life was very, very turbulent. But at the same time, when in retrospect, I try to remember why it was very romantic. Because there was no materialistic need, what we face today.
To get a job as soon as possible.
Yeah. Highly materialistic society. It was a great romantic time. Highly romantic.
Idealist as well.
Idealist,
Yeah.
all too,
Yeah.
of course. So that was a great time. It's time to say our few words, otherwise the soul will set sail tomorrow.
Wow. Nice.
That was the time. I remember in Kalbala Express the relationship between the boy and the girl, and it's like like beautiful lines from Rabo, I still suddenly reminds me. Idle youth enslaved by everything, I have destroyed myself through sensitivity. Ah, let the time come when heart fall in love.
Yeah, but
So, actually, it says about the time. And during college days, I bunked college, went to British Council. They had a fantastic collection of film books, and started reading because I didn't want to give pressure to my family because Pune Institute was there. I could have gone to Pune Institute, but I said, being the eldest son of the family, I didn't want to sort of give little pressure to my parents. So I thought, I learn by myself, kind of self-training, and by watching films, by reading books. So in British Council, there were a fantastic collection of film books. So I started reading film theory. Actually, before watching many interesting films in film societies or in Alliance in Calcutta or in American Library Center, British Council, before watching many films, I read many books. That, opened up my eyes about that this medium has a great potential to be called as an art. Okay. Before that, my idea was cinema is cinema.
Yeah.
That's entertainment, it's a fun and all that. But cinema is also an art. I realized from the books I read. Then, of course, we had the opportunity of watching great French movies in Alliance without subtitle.
Wow.
And that was fantastic. Because, without subtitle, you can understand the film. If it is a real cinema, you can understand. Then I remember watching Orson Welles' second film, Magnificent Amberson, in American Film Center. Ray was, I first time seen Satyajit Ray. He was also watching. Later on, I asked Ray that, in that screening, you were there, and we were all, and after that, you spoke about the film. Ray said that was my 11th time watching Amberson. So then it was the great American film, great Soviet cinema, German cinema, Italian cinema. I remember after watching Rocco and His Brothers by Visconti, I realized, my God, now I have to make a film. I have to make a film. Enough of theory and all that, watching films, but I have to make a film. But to make a film, you have to learn the craft. That's very, very important. So again, in British Council Library, there was a fantastic series called Focal Series. I don't know whether they are available now. Focal series of books on cinematography, on editing, on sound recording, on everything. And it's a basic technical books. So that was my great, inspiration that I must know the techniques, because in cinema it's so technical. You have to learn. Of course, a director can hire a professional, an editor, a cameraman, but I think director should know the techniques of cinema, of each and every department. That's how, I started shooting my own film, editing my own footage, learned sound recording, not to become a sound recordist or a cameraman or an editor, but to make myself, confident of my work.
But I think you still do the cinematography of your works now, music,
Yes.
you also do
Yes,
your own music.
I compose music for all my films. Cinematography, of course, except my first feature film, because I made my first feature film in Telugu, the language I didn't know. And that was and almost with non-actors, actors from the villages, not actors, the villages, few stage actors, and it was an independent film. So I didn't want to take a chance to shoot and handle so many people. So Kamal Nayak was my cameraman in my first film. And the film delayed because of funding. So Kamal had to go back to Bombay for some professional work. The last schedule I finished myself. And all other films were shot by me, except my last film was shot by my son. So I'm very happy. Ragi. He went to United States to study music, but came back, and it's very interesting, what happens with children or with the human race, about perception. He learned music, came back. He didn't have no interest in cinema, and he said, "Dad, can I hire your still camera?" I said, "Oh, please." And he went to Kumbh Mela, came back and said, "My God, our country is amazing." And I found unbelievable images. So I want to pursue image making. Now he has become a cameraman and finishing his first film.
So just get you back to, you mentioned about the film societies earlier. I understand you and your
glass of water, please.
I have Nimbu Pani here.
No problem. Thank you.
So you and your friends are involved in the film society movement.
Yeah.
And maybe in a little bit of, to share some of your, work that you did in film societies, how you got into film society. I understand, the history of film society movement in India was started with Ray in 1947, and he talks about it beautifully in his writing.
Yeah.
I think you are the next generation after Ray coming forth, that you take on the work, you and your friends on the film society movement. How did that play out, and how do you see all of that? Because we are still struggling to get, at least in our state, when you talk about cinema literacy, and if it is, located with the vehicle of a film society, we are struggling because we are the only film society that survives.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Kerala
challenge
has
is-
many film societies.
Absolutely. And similarly, Kerala has many, they have 150 film societies
Yeah.
that are still registered and doing some work.
Mhm.
Right? So is it because of the left being in power with the cultural kind of a processes that were taken on, and where other political development happened on a different kind of a trajectory, we haven't looked at film as a serious medium of engagement, right? That has been my reading from across the country, because we see the kind of cinema literacy in terms of either film studies departments, which you have in Jadavpur or in Kerala, and some of these.
Jadavpur was perhaps the first
First one, absolutely. And I think JNU came up quite late, about
Yeah.
10 years ago now. in the
I
art
remember,
center.
I was in their advisory board when, they, during the inception.
Right. And I think, do you locate it in a kind of a political consciousness where you see film societies moving up, and then suddenly we don't see film societies anymore?
Film societies, of course, the movement started, actually, popularly, Calcutta Film Society is known as the first film society in Calcutta. Founded by Ray, Harishadan Dasgupta, Chidarananda Dasgupta, and few other friends. But recently, we found that the first film society was formed in 1932.
Oh.
Yeah, in Dharmatala Street by poet Narendra Dev, Charu Ghosh, and few other film enthusiasts. It's very interesting because, they called it Calcutta Cinema Library,
Okay.
where you can come and read magazines and books on film, and occasionally they used to screen films and discuss. And important filmmakers of 30s were participating in the discussions.
Okay.
So Calcutta somehow had a tradition of film culture or film studies. even the film studios, they had little bit, in the new theatres particularly, Nitin Bose had started this small little film study department.
Right.
That to come and discuss the new technology, what has been added in the West, and when they brought it down in Calcutta, how they function, and the entire edit pattern of new films. So there was a culture in Calcutta. I think Film Society movement, of course, idea came from the West, but I believe that some legacy of our industry people also there, because this is unfortunate. Later on, he's one of the whole vanguard of Film Society movement. But at one point of time, there was a very sharp division between film industry and film society.
Right.
And Film Society people thought, no, actually they were quite highbrow. That film industry people they have no idea about cinema. That's wrong. Because there were many, that's how we ignored many important filmmakers, whose work has completely gone, and you hardly find them anymore. They were not been discussed. But Film Society movement also helped us a lot, especially my generation, because there were so many film societies, and it was so difficult to get good films, except East Europe. They were quite, generous to give films.
German.
Yeah. Even East Europe, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, and we could see great European movies. And of course, Calcutta, and I don't know, even Cuttack had theatres where Hollywood films used to get released, but not European films. So as I said, we had seen Rocco and his brothers, that was the English version of Rocco.
Right.
It was fascinating. It was different. It had different perception altogether. Then came, of course, through Film Society, we could see Italian new realism, and as you were inquiring about the interest in film culture.
Right.
It was there already, I'm sure.
Right. And I think you also were involved in setting up forum, which also was a lot of intellectual, space. I think it was being developed. That
Exactly.
what I thought was the
Forum. That's very important. That filmmakers make films, and critics they write about films. But it's very important that you need a forum for film studies. That is very, very important. Somehow that is a little bit missing now in Calcutta. People do not discuss because they are very happy and very happy with their small little films, their release, and if media writes something good, that's all. So deep understanding of cinema is somehow missing. Why? What is the perception change between from analog to digital?
right.
But people are not discussing. That is very, very important.
Okay, so we'll move to a couple of questions that I had, and then maybe we'll open it up to. I just need to check the time. How much time we have? Okay, we'll go on for another 30 minutes. And
Yeah, sure.
So, the Silk Route project that you are part of, I think it was done in 85?
84.
84.
The expedition was done in 84, but I took almost 2 years to complete the film.
Okay, so let me talk about the film, the documentary film, which is about 4 hours long, and I managed to get a copy of the book. I forgot to get the book here. The book is also very interesting, where Goutam talks about, in a very, I would say, scholarly way. It's not. I was, personally, I thought, cinema के ऊपर किताब photo होगा क्या होगा?
No. It was basically our journey along the Silk Route and also in Tibet, because Tibet, we had the great opportunity to travel all along Tibet, and finally came back. It was all by road, 14,000 kilometers. So it was our own journey, and journey back in time.
Yeah.
That's why I took almost 2 years to complete the film, to study the history of early travelers and all that. So it's not a typical travel book.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It has an inquiry.
Yeah. And I just wanted to add on, and we'll build it up here and spend a little bit of time about this film as well as the book. The film not only traces the Silk Route, it's almost a caravan. Okay, we're driving through 14,000 miles across. And my first memory has been of, I think it was also shown in Doordarshan at that point in time.
Yeah.
I was in class 5 or
It
class
is
6.
Discovery and then Doordarshan.
Huh. So we
Doordarshan had shown a Hindi version.
Huh. And I remember a lot of the gypsy vehicle and Mahindra vehicle I remember those images. But what I connected personally also was with Vikram Seth's From Heaven's
Heaven's Lake.
From Heaven's Lake. And that kind of stayed with me. And when I started reading your book after talking to you, I saw a lot of interesting conversations.
Yeah.
First of all, there is Young Husband's exhibition. There is Mallory. If you are interested in the Himalayas, then these are very
Yeah,
interesting
of course.
figures to look at.
Because we had the opportunity of going up to the Everest base camp on the Tibetan side.
And the Rumbuk Monastery story is very
Monastery,
interesting.
my God.
Very interesting. So
Now I believe they have made a kind of a highway. The Chinese made a highway up to Everest base camp.
and I want to bring some of the
And when we were traveling, it was so difficult. It was just a jeepable route
Wow.
with full of risks.
Yeah.
So it was very exciting and exciting journey.
And I think you had made some very tongue-in-cheek comments in the book when you're going through Lhasa. And the comment is primarily, I'll just paraphrase it. I can't get all the lines in order. The idea was you're talking about the Tibetans had danced to the tune of the theocratic, elite.
Yes.
Now they're going to dance to the new communist regime, right? Which I thought was very, tongue-in-cheek about the Tibetan situation as well as the geopolitics of that region, right? So
But Tibet is fascinating, absolutely. And people were so nice, so kind. Anyway, and also, that inspired me to make a film on Dalai Lama. I spent 4.5 years traveling with him, interviewing him, and it was so fascinating. And I remember during the screening of my film on Dalai Lama, I call it Impermanence. I'd shown Amdo, the birthplace of His Holiness, and he was in tears, remembering the childhood, remembering Potala. So it was all there in the film. And we were lucky that we got the permission to shoot inside Potala. Potala is almost forbidden for the tourists, especially for the foreigners, and you're not supposed to take any picture. Our collaborator Lian Limin, who had a strong connection in Beijing, somehow managed the permission. But he said, the Goutam, I'll manage the permission to shoot inside, but you have to promise me that you will not part with this footage to any channel, however big they are. I kept my promise. I got monetary offer from big channels, please give us the footage of Potala. I didn't give. So I kept my promise.
I think on the
Only will find Potala in my film.
Nice.
No other film. Of course, nowadays in digital, if somebody has copied from YouTube, I don't know.
And just getting you back to the Himalayan project, that moves on to you go and work with His Holiness, and then some of the other things that I picked up. You end the book by talking about a spiritual process of going up the mountain and coming back. Right?
That's Hari Alwalia, a fascinating person, who organized the entire expedition. Major Alwalia climbed Everest in 1965, along with other, because he was in the army, along with seven of them climbed Everest. But after their great victory of victory
Summit.
on the top of the mountain, on the summit, he was sent to a war again with Pakistan. You know, unending problem between India and Pakistan. And he received a bullet in the spine and became paraplegic for the rest of his life on the wheelchair. But you know, even from the wheelchair, he organized expedition and you know, dreaming of climbing Everest again and again. And that's why I quoted Mallory that why you climb mountain, Mallory said, because it is there. So it's a you know, it's a not only physical but also spiritual journey. Like you know, 2 days back we had a very interesting conversation in Calcutta in Jadavpur University. Myself and Adur Gopal Krishnan. Adur said a very interesting thing that, Goutam, don't you think that when we make good films, it's like meditation? It's true. It's like meditation. Like any artist, you know, when a painter sort of working on his or her canvas, it's like meditation.
From the Himalayan, project, I saw a couple of, connections. When I saw Moner Manus, and you somehow managed to get from the visible to the invisible, which is the interiority of the character Lalan Fakir. And I think, Lalan Fakir comes alive through Prasenjit. I had never seen Prasenjit like that before.
Yeah, no. You had to do a lot of hard work.
And I was personally moved. I think Prasenjit doing Lalan Fakir. And I think the music as well as, the work that you managed to do with Prasenjit and the production was very interesting, just trajectory.
Yeah.
There's this consistency of this asking these questions of, not only of humanity but also of that time.
Absolutely.
The authoritarian regimes were also there, and this
Yeah.
man comes in and asks questions in a very different way.
And Lalan's philosophy is a combination of, he've taken so many things from different faiths.
Right.
So it's a very, again, a very composite culture,
Right.
which we have, not only here, all over the world. We unnecessarily divide and split. But the form of cinema is such, where, I try to combine the real, unreal and the surreal. I think that's the, motto of any art. This combination of real, unreal and surreal, because that's why we call it art. And in cinema, I was born with a strange dichotomy of change. Because basically cinema came from still photographs, and throughout the 19th century, you know the history. A lot of technologists, scientists, they were working day and night to make the images moving. How the image, they can move the image. So many experiments. And finally, when we got cinema, moving images, it was basically the cameraman, they were doing the work because they were taking. Then came editors who were assembling the shots. After that came the director. When there was the kind of a demand from the audience, we want to listen to a story or a narrative. Then the director came into being in film scenes. However, the silent cinema, in the beginning, it was just some images, moving images. Then, over the years, till 1925, 26, 27, 28, before, Jat Singer was produced, the first sound film. The silent cinema had reached to its peak and became a great work of art and considered. Because in the beginning, cinema was absolutely neglected. No, this is something.
A peep show.
Yeah, peep show. Exactly, peep show. So then, it with great filmmakers, filmmakers, technicians, like Griffith, like Eisenstein, like Vertov, and so many, Fritz Lang, Murnau. They were the mentors, they were the pioneers, mentors that created the language of cinema. And one fine morning, when the sound came, there's a sharp decline, a nosedive of cinema. Cinema is completely gone. It became theatre again. So again, with the great efforts of filmmakers, technicians, the sound cinema really could achieve the artistic quality again. Then came suddenly the black and white gone. You have color. It is a continuous process of change. Then analog to digital. So sometimes I wondered why. Because we never think about it, that technologists are not sitting idle. Every day they are trying to innovate, trying to bring out some new apparatus, new gadgets, new technology. So, and the creators, they use those technology, and in between there's a market force.
Yeah.
They control.
Absolutely.
They say no more silent film.
Right.
You have to bring sound into film.
Right.
No more black and white, bring
Bring
color.
color.
It's like that.
It's true.
So things have changed. That's why with the change of technology, perception changes.
True.
Both perception of both the filmmakers and the audience. But one thing which has not changed in cinema, that is cinematic time and space. This is something, is unique power of cinema. You see, we live, I don't know what we mean by present. Actually, it's a fraction between past and the future. Nothing. But we need a time to organize our life, our society. So we follow Julian calendar and the linear time. But in cinema, you can combine both linear and cyclic time. In cinema, you can tell a story of 2000 years in 2 hours. You can fall of the Roman Empire. Or you can tell a story of 2 hours in 2 hours. Satyajit Ray's Kanchenjunga. It's a story of 2 hours, and we see it almost in real time.
Or you can do Tree of Life.
Tree of Life, exactly. Or you can tell a story of 10 minutes in 3 hours.
True.
You can. So you can squeeze, you can expand time, cinematic time, which is fascinating. However, technological change takes place, but this time concept will never change. Now, how to use it creatively, that is the work of an artist. Well, in my film Bismillah, in those days, only 400 feet negatives were available, means 4.5 minutes length, duration, a Kodak or Fuji, whatever. And sometime, if you put special order to Rochester, they used to send 1,000 feet roll. Means 11 minutes you can run. Okay. So for Bismillah, I ordered 4,000 feet rolls, and 1,000 feet magazine we got from Bombay, from Ismail Merchant's company. Because there is one shot which is almost 9 minutes long. Bismillah Khan playing Malkosh. I thought, we'll put the camera on a trolley, and there will be some kind of signal to the trolley man, go right or left, and we have put a bulb, a little light, a shade on the top of him, and with this with invisible string or black string. We were sort of sewing the light to give a little movement of light and shade. So with very, very difficult, we managed that 9-minute shots because 1,000-foot films were rarely available.
Right.
In the turn of the century, I think 2005 or 6, when HD came, HD cassettes of 90 minutes or 120 minutes, Alexander Shokurov made a film named Russian Ark.
Single.
As I was discussing about the time, a great artist realized that how I can use this new technology.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a one-shot film.
Yeah.
One shot of 95 minutes. Now, the film is very interesting. If you have the opportunity to see the film, so you must have seen the film. A diplomat of the 17th century, he enters into the famous Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg. He enters, the camera follows him. Then you find people are entering the museum, moving around. Then the diplomat is having a kind of a conversation with Shokurov. Shokurov was behind the camera, speaking to the diplomat. Then they enter into a room where you find people from 18th century. Then in another room, people from 19th century, 20th century. So it's so interesting. The camera is moving in linear time, but you are bringing few centuries together. It's unbelievable. So it's a creative use of technology. That I can make a film, 95 minutes film, in one shot, which has again a linear shot, but many layers were created. So that is interesting experiment in cinema.
And I'll get you back to composite culture that we talked about, Lalan Fakir's life. By the time we get to Ustadji film, we talk about the composite culture, Majma'ul Bahrain, and which comes in has a strain from Akbar to Dara Shikoh to we see Ustadji living that culture, and particularly in today's Banaras where there is a project of getting huge roads built into the Kashi Vishwanath temple for all kinds of things, and which in a sense I think it's also an important film just for archival purposes. That Banaras that we see today may not exist.
You never know.
Yeah.
Already it's gone.
Yeah. So, and some of the landmarks that we have read about, we don't know how that will be there, and we've been talking about it. That the fact is, we bury our dead. We don't bury our dead; we burn them, and our own fascination with not looking at our history. It's not only a record, but I thought it was very interesting to look at the composite culture that Ustadji lived, and he talks about, and I wanted you to build on. He talks about तासीर होना, सुर तो सीख जाते हैं, उसके बाद जब ये आपको पकड़ आता है उसमें तासीर पैदा होता है, और फिर वो बात करते हैं कि it has to be the blessings of the ancestors कि आपको शायद कुछ दिखे, and then gets into the ethical way of life कि अगर आप दिन भर झूठ ना बोलें, संगीत वही है. And I just wanted to build on because it is so powerful.
Yeah, because I think making a film on Ustad Bismillah Khan is a great experience. I was lucky to have that kind of opportunity of meeting a great person who was not a great musician, but man of great wisdom, and I would say native wisdom, which is so rooted. That's very, very important. And he believed in basic human values. He believed in positive energy of life, positive emotion of life. And for him, it was so simple that taking a dip in the holy Ganges, going to the mosques for the namaz, and playing whole day at Balaji temple, playing Shehnai for the whole day. What else? We speak and write about secular, secular, secular. What more do you expect? It's so simple. In my class, I was lucky in my class in Cathedral Mission High School. We had Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, Chinese Buddhist, Hindu. In my childhood, I never felt that about religion. Because during Eid, I used to get clothes from my very close friend Akhtar and from their family. We used to give a gift during puja and celebrated Christmas with my Christian friends. So I never felt that there is a kind of a division between different faiths. So when I met Bismillah Khan Sahab, he was a devout Muslim. Used to pray 5 times a day. At the same time, he said that when I play, in play means he has a gayaki ang, means he used to sing through music, thinking about the bandish, the words. He told me, maybe I don't know whether it is in the film, I don't remember. He told me that whenever I played a bandish about Radha and Krishna, I used to cry for Radha's grief. So what else this is India. This is our composite culture. Indian Hinduism, original Hinduism is so liberal and absorbed many elements. As you have mentioned, Majma-ul-Bahrain, it's a great work by Darashuko. If you have a chance, please read the book. It's very, very relevant in our time. The book Majma-ul-Bahrain means mingling of two oceans. What he did, he combined Islam with Vedanta and Upanishad. And in the book you will find the basic teachings and observations or the philosophical treatise are same. That was, Dara's idea of writing a book of our composite culture and faith.
And just a footnote, Darashiko commissioned that work. It was done in Persian, and that text finds itself in Europe, and people like Schopenhauer at that point in time read that in translation.
Absolutely.
And they discover about or get curious about the great Indian philosophy.
Upanishad was translated by Dara.
Yeah.
And from Persian it went to Europe, and the first Upanishad, the European Upanishad, came in French.
Right.
So just imagine, Dara Shuko was responsible of spreading Upanishad all over the world.
Yeah, true.
Fascinating, absolutely.
And Darashiko, in a sense, when you think of the ruling elite, was one of the most powerful empires of the world at that point in time.
Yeah, and
right?
Dara was the eldest son. He was supposed to become the next emperor. Dara was assassinated, killed. And we read in the history book, Dara was killed by Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb was the front man. He was killed by the fundamentalist.
Yes.
He was killed by the orthodox priest, ulemas. Because they thought that if Dara becomes a king, my God, what will be our power? It happened with every faith. That's why if you look at the great poems of Bhakti movement, Vasavana and all that, in Bhakti movement, these poems, where you find that, they are speaking about structure and anti-structure.
Yeah.
Because, in every faith there is a structure, because structure is finally taken over by the organization, and anti-structure remains
The resistance.
with resistance and with common man, like Sufi.
Yeah.
I think it's in every faith. But in our subcontinent, there is a very interesting cross-cultural, mingling of many faiths. That is fascinating. Another thing fascinates me, and it's it's fascinating for artists, for the filmmakers, everybody, that our multi-layered society. India is not homogeneous at all, and that's the beauty of the country. And it's so multi-layered. You find 19th century, or maybe 18th century, 19th century, 20th century, and our 21st century are all moving together. It's very rare. Many of my friends from Europe said, "My God, this was there in Europe 200 years back, but it's still there."
So I want to bring you back to a couple of more observations, and then we'll open up to the audience. From the composite culture that we've been talking about and what we have seen, and post 2014, there's been a concerted attack on, as if a project has been unleashed to change that into a kind of authoritarian regime. And I know you've been part of a lot of these protests that have happened over a period of time. And you did mention that maybe it's a cyclical process that we're seeing, because world over we're seeing authoritarian regimes propping up.
Yeah.
We've seen Boris Johnson.
It's a global phenomenon.
Yeah, Boris Johnson dismissing Parliament, which we would have equated with the tin pot regime in sub-Saharan Africa, but it's happening in Britain, the mother of constitutional processes and democracy and parliamentary process and so on. And back home, we are seeing something very terrible happening with NCR, with the kind of anxieties that have been thrown.
Oh my
into
God, in Bengal, in Assam.
Yeah.
What I feel that it's always in a cycle. And the result is greed, extreme greed. Sometimes, even the politicians, they can't control. Something is beyond their imagination. Because there are many forces, they work together.
Right.
You can't blame that this particular leader is responsible, or that one was really triggering the problem. No, it's a multiple, forces. They have no care for humanity, no care for environment, no care for climate change, nothing at all. Only money. I want to burn a forest.
Yeah.
I want to burn a forest for
Love.
creating something which will pay me back very fast. I want to destroy a lagoon to get some money for immediate benefit. They're not interested for the future. They're not interested for the future generation. So how much you can earn very fast. This is the situation. I was shooting in Port Blair for the film I made for High Court of Calcutta. And a very senior bureaucrat told me, look, Mr. Ghosh, we are very scared that some big corporates are planning to take over the islands all around, many islands, to make a kind of an international resort. It's so delicate, the environment of Andaman Islands is so delicate that it will destroy the ecosystem. The ecosystem itself is so delicate there. But you don't know. Maybe in next 10 years some big companies will come and occupy those islands. So these are the problems. Because I remember in our childhood, there was a fantastic series which was very popular, published by Mentor publisher. Age of Belief, one volume. Age of Enlightenment, Age of Adventure, and so on. I think I must write another edition, Age of Greed. This is the age of greed. So let's hope for, I'm sure that every time, this violence, this kind of thing, this onslaught on people, on nature, on human dignity, trampled underfoot, we have seen throughout the ages, throughout the millennium. So it's I think, it will continue, and again, people will realize that we have made a mistake. Only human being can correct it. Few politicians can't. That's human being, human race can correct it. But otherwise, it's very, very difficult. I think that's very important. His Holiness told me a very interesting thing. That look, how when the 9/11 happened, he had given me an interview. Just imagine the negative emotion people had. That with an aircraft they crashed. So the amount of negative emotion, you just can't blame them. But they were sort of brainwashed to create that. So that's the most important thing. Our mind is full of negative emotion. So with positive emotion, with compassion, you have to overcome it. And I think only human race can do it.
I think about compassion, we need to open it up to the audience. They've been very kind and gentle and listening all the way. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, we can open it up. The floor is open. Stands in. If there are any questions, we can start with you and then we can take it on.
You were like, I can't imagine listening to you because I report you a lot and even we are staying in the Ladakh, Ladakh. So I just wanted to little more know about the sleek roads because I heard about the sleek roads a lot and some people are saying that sleek road is full of life. Then they were, I think it shouldn't be like a sleek road, but should be another name because it's full of everywhere. It's like full of life. So when you shooting, what you feel?
Well, actually, we know and read about the Silk Road, Jade Route, Silk Route, because this was named much later. But it was from Xi'an in China to Alexandria. And there were many sub-routes through Tibet, through Ladakh, because I remember we went to a place called Khashgar and Yarkand. From Yarkand there is a road, but now I think they built a road, Karakoram Highway, which is through Kargil, inside Kargil. But there was a road originally there was a road from Ladakh to Yarkand. So in Yarkand we found a place called Kashmir Kucha. Means Kucha means where you can take rest.
Halting space.
Halting place. But when we were in the Silk Road expedition in 1994, few years after the collapse of Soviet Union. So we passed through Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, and these were ex-Soviet countries. And still they were not very used to the borders. So when we were crossing the border, they said hi only, that's all. Didn't ask for papers and all that. But it's so interesting because I don't know what has happened now. Because it was restricted, it was like a favored land. Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan. in Kyrgyzstan, and the Issyk Lake was almost, what we read in the description of Zhuangzhang. Same. It was so beautiful, so beautiful. And of course, the entire journey through Taklamakan desert. Taklamakan means where you enter and you never come back.
Yeah, exactly.
You never exit, never come back. So it was so difficult. And the shooting inside Taklamakan, I was dying a couple of times, almost. I was shooting with 16 BL camera and also a support camera, a beta support camera. And that my camera assistant was now his famous film director, Kabir Khan. He was my assistant shooting with beta. So now actually, suddenly I read about it, that they call it Burhan, the kind of a storm. So suddenly I found a black cloud is approaching. So immediately I placed my camera and started shooting. Suddenly the local guys had sort of pushed me inside a shack at hotel. Then I found those are all full of stones.
Whoa.
The entire cloud
Was stone
full of
bars.
stones, stone bars. So Taklamakan is very unpredictable. And once we were driving, and the road was absolutely straight for 100 kilometers. And where I slept on my wheel and saved by my assistant who was sort of beside me. So it's very difficult, the entire negotiating Taklamakan, even today. But I don't know, maybe Chinese must have made another highway because, China was developing, in those days China was developing so fast. So I don't know.
I think now they have high-speed rail, connecting Beijing and Lhasa.
Yes, of course. In fact, when we were climbing to Tibet, we have seen that they were surveying. And it's, again, an engineering feat.
Yes.
It's unbelievable. Building
route of
railways between Beijing and Lhasa. It's so difficult. But, we climbed to Tibet. That was a great journey. So Silk Road is a wonder. It's wonder because of the entire Central Asia is a cauldron of cultures. That's the most important thing. So many cultures mixed together. So that is fascinating and also very composite. Because people are really a lot of mixed race people are living there. The Silk Road is very, very, now I think, there are many now it's much more liberal. You can make a trip.
And also you are legendary filmmakers, sir. Sometimes the technology is changing and then materialistically we're getting more access with everyone. But because of the situation, sometimes what situation we have now in our countries, what situation in China, if you could make that movie now, in your thoughts, it can be different because how the situation make your story different, political
Absolutely.
situations.
You're right.
How
You're right, because then when we went to Tibet, of course, still people were worshipping the Dalai Lama very much. They were celebrating his birthday, but very secretly. But they asked us very secretly, do you have a photograph of Dalai Lama? But now I think it's a little more liberal because there's a huge influx of Han Chinese in Tibet. It's an old technique of world politics. Very old. Manipulation, rather.
Yeah.
That you push people, and if there is a referendum, you win.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there. Even now, our Kashmir is so delicate. We don't know what's happening because it's closed now. And what will happen in future, it's so uncertain. Same thing was in Tibet. Tibet, after Dalai Lama left Tibet and the Chinese occupied Tibet, Chinese occupied that they in the name of anti-feudalism. They thought that it was a feudal country. So it's very difficult. Actually, no ideology is permanent. Everything is subject to change.
And given that boundaries of nation
Yeah.
states in world history have changed every 60 years.
Absolutely, yeah. So we actually artists, Lennon's great song. So it's like only artists can imagine. That's why the song is Imagine.
Imagine, yeah.
But I hope if the policymakers they find reason in the artist's expression, the world would have been different.
But the other problem is when people like Babul Supriyo are artists and they are ministers, they have problem. That expression need to be critically looked at.
If the good sense prevail.
Let good sense prevail.
I'm Sarat Kumar Jaina from
Yes.
Indian University, Pune, sir. The cinema, which evolved as a responsible medium, it's a plethora of mediums. So recently, or 2 decades back, it's taken over by the controlled by the technology, and at present, heavily it's controlled by the technology. So the filmmaking process, like design in the filmmaking process, how you take it as the newer generation's approach towards cinema with the involvement of so much technology and digitalization. So is it taking away the charm of filmmaking? We both discussed a lot today about debated. What is your opinion?
Well, again, the powerful, economically powerful, they are winning the battle.
Yeah.
Whether they're winning the battle, I don't know, but they're controlling, rather.
Yes.
In India, we call Oriya cinema a regional cinema. Bengali or Kannada, regional cinema. Hindi is also regional cinema.
But it's a large market. It's a market game.
But you
no?
call it national cinema.
Yes.
Why?
Yes. Market.
No point. Market.
Market.
Market controls. And why you call it national cinema? Any television serial, to national serial hai. And this is regional serial. This is, people are not really bothering. When, I remember in a very high-powered meeting in Delhi of the steering committee, I raised this question. That any film in our country, because of the nature of the country and our constitution, every film, each and every film is regional, at the same time national, and sometime it may become international, not always, if you have the quality. So that is the problem. And the influence is such, you look at the mainstream Oriya film, or mainstream film from Jharkhand, or mainstream film from Bengal, they look alike. Same.
Good one.
The same. The very cheap imitation of so-called Bollywood. And Bollywood, why? It's a very slave mentality of ours. I remember, it's 3 days back, I was discussing with Adur. We were together in Cannes in 1982. I had a film in one section, Adur also had a film. Then, they used to ask us about Indian masala film. The Westerners. Bollywood had no existence. masala films. Because you know,
The sari and dance.
no, because in Cannes, Gilles Jacob said, I heard about Indian masala film, so we are thinking a small section
to be dedicated to masala.
to show what is masala film.
Yes, to our audience.
Okay. Now, you know, because of power and money, they became Bollywood. But you know, young people are making brilliant films in Hindi. Really good films. It's the powerful. I know Bombay, Bollywood people so well. I know many producers. They don't care. Arey, cinema kya hai? What? Why you are thinking? Why you discuss cinema? Why you study cinema? It's a different breed of people. You can't imagine.
Kuthari sahab hai na?
Different breed.
Sab Kuthari sahab hai.
Unbelievable. So you know, it's powerful. And I asked, oh, how come Bollywood came? Because if you go to Hollywood, there's a Beverly Hills full of wood.
Where is the
Where is the wood in Bombay? Where is the wood in Madras? Where is the wood in Calcutta? So it's a slave mentality of Indians. Very, very unfortunate.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, observations? Chandroy?
No, actually, just drawing from what your earlier comment to the question was. Yeah, I can understand this whole slave mentality. But what is happening to the artistic, quote unquote, artistic, with the technology actually taking front stage?
Well, you know, technology is moving very fast in this digital domain. I remember Moner Manush was my last film in celluloid, almost 9 years. Technology, you know, moving so fast, it has its own dichotomy, good and bad. Now, these accessories, the camera, basic equipments are available for common man. So many interesting short films are coming up all over the world because of digital technology. But you have to learn the art of cinema. Technology is very users friendly. You can make a film. But who can make a good film even with the new technology, who understands or has the artistic mind to make a film? That's a different thing. And the excess of technology. In our film discipline that, you know, we write a script for a feature film per se, we divide shot that I want to see these shot from extreme long point of view, or some shot from extreme close point of view, or a shot without any cut. You know, a very interesting mise-en-scène I want to create. So this, you know, you write down or plan and then improvise in the location. But with this new technology, digital, it has become like a television. I have acted in few films recently. So one master shot from that angle, another master shot from this angle, another master shot from this angle, and all shots are from the top. And then few close-ups, and they dump the whole thing to the editor, make a film. So no perception. That's wrong. That's wrong. Exactly what you raised question. That's a wrong thing of using technology. You use the technology because, you know, being a cameraman, I know that certain things I'm not getting which I used to get in celluloid. A certain latitude, certain, you know, kind of palette I'm not getting. But what I'm getting also was not available in celluloid. I can control color temperature in the camera, which was impossible. We then, we had many filters and things like that. It's much user friendly. But you can, if you use it creatively, not for gimmick, and okay, cheap is much, shooting chips are much cheaper than celluloid. But I have calculated. Finally, the time you are consuming for the shoot, if you would have shot with celluloid, would have been the same. So, unnecessarily people overshooting, and also bad for the actors. When I was shooting my last film, Ragir, not yet released, my actors, Adil Hussain, Niraj Kabi, and Tilottama Shom, 3 of them acted in my film. Brilliant actors, very serious. They said, Gotanda, we are so glad. I said, cut. You don't want to repeat the earlier shot as a cue? I will know. I know my cuts. It's done already. Say so, because they were so excited. Because for an actor, an actor can give full energy and energy, concentration, and the mind only for that shot. You don't have to mechanically repeat right from the beginning. Why? So technology is there, but you have to use the technology sparingly and very intelligently. Technology shouldn't eat you over. That's the whole thing. Or consume you. And there another problem, standardization. My film will be premiered in Busan Film Festival on the 7th of October. For the last 1 week, we were exchanging mails that your 7.1 track is not opening in our system. I said, we sent it, my digital technician said that, we sent it as per your recommendation. It was not opening. So there is some problem with compatibility. Because perhaps, their server is a different make than our servers in India. So there is no standardization.
वो protocol भी change होता रहता
Or
है.
protocol or business competition and so many things. But during the film era, only 10 years back, 24 frames per second, film roll, print, you put it on the projector and it runs and ends. That's all.
And I think what you were saying yesterday, what Khan wanting in terms of itne frame per second pe bana ho abhi.
It's very complicated now, unnecessarily complicated.
So-
but I'm sure that it will settle down at one point of
So
time.
just tell me one thing, just in addition to this. So has the creative become gimmick now?
Well, partly. Like, you remember when the zoom lens was introduced. Zoom in and zoom out. Ten, tin, ten, tin, ten, tin, ten, tin, tup. And the next beat, again zoom out. So, then, we realized that zooming means there is no change in perspective. So, you started using zoom very sparingly again. So, this is the problem, when a new technology comes, gimmicks takes place,
Arindam, yeah.
So you have recently worked with Srijit Mukherjee in his film Chilo Raja. He has made other great movies also, Rajkot, which was made into Begum. There is Anirudh Roy Chaudhary, who has made Pink and also made won national awards. So do you think that these new Bengal directors have the capability to touch the status of other great directors like Satyajit Ray, Bharat Thakkar, or Aparna Sen, Rituparna Sindhu, and you? Because these film directors, Satyajit Ray, they have made such cinema which at that time which nobody else have done it. Satyajit Ray has made such cinemas like Patri Panchali, Appu trilogy and other films, he's visionary. They are visionary directors. Do you think
Yeah.
such new directors have that status to be like them?
Well, the new generation, look, what happens? It's a kind of a parampara. Because the Ray's generation, Ray, Ritik, Mrinal, in Bengal, and then, our generation. Then another generation, now the third generation has also come. So they're trying to make films. What I feel that content of today's movie has become a little bit stereotyped.
Yeah.
The new experience, because cinema must give you new experience. That is missing. That's why our films from Bengal are not being celebrated internationally. So that is the problem. Otherwise, they are all competent. They are making films, but they are making too many films. Because again, when you make too many films, it becomes a assembly line work. You shoot and then give it to your editor, you start another film. So, this culture came from television. You can't blame these film directors because they have grown up with this culture. But I think, they will improve their work if they make one film a year, not more than that. It's a language and technology is changing always. And how you use it, it's your cup of tea.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So if there are no more questions, do you have any more questions? Because we need to go wrap, set up and check and then do the closing as well. Any questions?
Yeah.
Tomorrow he जाओ ना.
No.
No. For people, the unrepresented majority now.
Actually, we are worried about because now so many cinemas are made in Europe, also in India, in many parts, with a lot of pressure from the post-production side, like by the influence of digital evolution. So, really, being a legendary filmmaker, so do you feel that this is a digital technology doing some experiment with the cinema, and at a time it is a temporary effect, but the mainstream cinema making will still remain and not be altered by the influences of digital?
Look, in today's industry, post-production is a big department. Okay. So, pre-production, production, post-production. Post-production has become another industry. Because people think that you can improve your film in post-production. But I don't believe.
Yes, that is.
Apparently you can improve. Suppose, when I did the first DI in Eastern India, true digital intermediate in a film called Yatra. But even after that, when I worked in digital, I worked like celluloid. I measure light, I try to see the entire frame is properly lit, or whenever I don't want any light, no light, natural light. But I never believe that in DI you can manage. Lot of people say, hey, come on, fast, you can manage in DI. You can manage in post-production. No, you can't manage. It's like, when you make a mistake and with this white
Fluid,
yeah.
correction fluid.
Correction fluid. It's like that. And, you don't rewrite, you just with the correction fluid, you just correct. It's like that. It's a kind of a patch. So post-production is important, but don't depend too much on post-production technology.
So
You have to do it.
Mansi and then Trijit, okay? And then we wrap, sorry. Tera bhi hai. Okay, Bhaswati, we'll end with Bhaswati. Mansi, Trijit, Bhaswati.
So sir, I'm Mansi Patel, I'm an IFT student, and
Yeah.
as I'm a student, I think my question would be also like student. So ek to I feel really good, and I wish ki every child in India and in the world have that kind of childhood where we get introduced with so much of art forms like you did.
Yes, I was really
That's,
lucky and fortunate.
Yeah.
And they had books to read also, no?
Yeah. Books to read.
No, my father was a great lover of Indian classical music. And as a child, he used to take us. My
Yes.
parents used to take us to classical music function. I remember in the beginning, Baragaram Ali Khan, Omkar Nath Thakur, and all
Dada,
greats.
you never had internet and MTV or
That's true. That's true. That's true.
Yes, sir.
So-
So, as you said that the filmmaking is very technical process and it is a very lengthy and hectic process. So as you are a director plus actor plus music composer and also a cinematographer plus
He loves
you
to
have
cook.
your-
He loves to cook also.
Yes.
Yes, yes. He doesn't talk about it.
and so you have your own personal life parallelly going on. How do you find balance with between both of them? Like you as a cinematographer, as a director, as an actor, as a music composer, and you as a human.
Well, I live a very simple life. I love living simple life. No, I'm not starving. I'm not like that. I have a decent life, but I try to enjoy everything. When I read a book, I read a book. When I watch a film, I watch a film. I don't do too many things at a time. That's a problem of today because of the technology. Like you are sending an email and also talking to phone, also concentrating. It's not possible. It's beyond the capacity of human brain. So what is happening? If we still believe in the theory of Darwin, I think nowadays there is a new theory coming up that Darwin is wrong. Anyway, but then we are becoming a new species.
Now, I have a take. We have been Lamarckian. We won't have any genital. We'll have longer fingers.
Anyway, so what I think it's how you balance it, and I think art is it's also a very composite thing. It's all together.
True.
I don't have a separate entity as a cinematographer and a director. Right from the beginning, I thought like a painter. Painter doesn't direct. That you put this color and change to that color. Does it himself.
True.
So I tried to shoot my film right from the beginning. But it's not must. There are hundreds and thousands of films where a great DOP and the director worked together and made unique things. But in my case, it was like this. And I didn't shoot, of course, I shot 3 documentaries for Hari S. Dasgupta, a great documentary filmmaker in those days. And only 1 feature film I shot for Aparna Sen, Mr. and Mrs. Zaya. Because Aparna is a very childhood friend of mine. She's been telling me, Goutam, why don't you shoot a film? Because she learned still photography from me. And she says publicly that Goutam taught me still photography. And she had requested me several times, why don't you shoot a film for me? I said, I don't know how to shoot a film for other director. In the beginning, what happened, I was shooting because, I was sitting with my camera and Aparna Sen is the director. While the shot was going, I was started giving instruction. Rahul, no. Little slow. Konkona, no. Go a little back. So after a couple of shots, Aparna came and whispers. And she calls me Guti. Hey Guti, I'm the director. So I really don't have a separate entity, and music, as I said, it was basic learning because I don't claim myself a great musician. I do very functional music for my films. That's all. I compose, I write. So I learned a little bit of music in my childhood, basic music training. So it's all together. So it helps me a lot while taking a shot, I know after that there will be some space where I can put music. So I count, I count, I count, I count, I count a phrase, at the bar, I can count while taking the shot, and eventually during the edit and sort of syncing the music, it becomes almost perfect. So it's all together. And I don't claim any special credit for that. It's a process of learning of an individual.
My name is Srijit Acharya, and I am also a student at National Institute of Fashion Technology, Bhubaneswar. And what I have observed in the field of fashion also, because it's very populist driven, is that it's also like artistic films. It's also very anti-intellectual, and people don't want to think. So, do you think that films, artistic films, should be made more popular? Also, is it at all desirable to make artistic films popular?
Well, in fashion, of course, I have seen many fashion designers. They are very cerebral. They are combining many elements from the heritage, from the populist strain, and all together. So it depends. Sometimes the fashions becomes very creative, and you can make it out. It's very creative, something different. It's a new experience. Again, a new experience is something which is very important for the audience or for the spectator. The new experience. The same thing is in cinema. In fashion, I'm sure that as a fashion designer, one day you will try to do something not only populist, that which is available. If you are a creative, you will try to do something different. Trying to do something different is a very important connotation.
Right.
Always different, because I remember there was a beautiful line of L.A. Rene when he made last year at Marienbad, that I tried to create a movement of my actors, that movement the human race has seen only once in their lifetime.
Wow. Kya baat.
That's very important. Something which is a real experience. A real experience. Same thing happened with me when I made a film with Bismillah Khan. Unbelievable experience, because I couldn't imagine that certain things is possible in Shehnai. Yeah, even as a little bit music I know, certain things, how he made it possible in Shehnai was beyond my imagination.
Basuti, we'll wrap with you.
So, your first feature film, if I'm not wrong, is Telugu film. So, I'm not a Bengali one. So, how did it happen? Like, did you already plan before that you will do like a Telugu film? Because I saw an interview once that you said that you didn't know the language, like the Telugu language. So, you decided, like, how did it happen? How did you decide on making a Telugu film first?
It was quite accidental, I tell you, because I was still making documentaries. I was a little bit getting bored of making documentaries. Documentaries means sponsored documentaries and ad films. I made so many ad films at one point of time because of bread and butter, of course, for the living and all that. But I never liked ad films because before Mabhumi, what happened? That was my situation. I was making a couple of ad films in Bombay for a company. And every time I make an ad film, my conscience says I'm telling half truth, selling it to the people, that this will make you fair, this will make you this. So, I was suffering internally. Then Mrinal Sen made a film called Mrigaya, Mithun's first film. The producer of Mrigaya came to Calcutta, and he had seen my documentary Hungry Autumn. And Mrinal Sen, and they are very impressed. The film also received some awards and all that. Anyway, he said that, do you have any plan for a feature film? I said, at the moment not, but I've written one script in Bengali, keeping Uttam Kumar in mind, in a major role, not a typical hero, but a very important character. But that's in Bengali. We'll know, we are very keen to make a film in Andhra Pradesh. Why didn't you come to Andhra Pradesh and make a film? It was an open offer, and the co-producer was a kind of an activist in a theatre group, and also they were part of a revolutionary theatre in Andhra Pradesh, and the singer was Gadar. Gadar was part of the group. So they invited me, why don't you come to Andhra Pradesh and make a film? And of course, so, it was quite obvious that in the backdrop of Andhra Pradesh. So I did some homework and read a very interesting novel called Jab Khet Jage by Kishan Chandra. It was written in Urdu. I read the English translation. It's about the Telangana peasant uprising and how it continued till 1948, even after the annexation of Hyderabad. So myself and my poet friend, he's no more, he died, we had written a script, Bhattu Banerjee, written a script and went to Hyderabad and said, well, I can make this film in Hindi, because, you can't make it in English or in Bengali. They said, no, if you make it in Hindi, half of our population will not understand, except a small pocket in Hyderabad, because Hyderabad was under the Nizam rule, so Urdu was little popular. So some people, a section of people understand Hindi, but most of the people, they follow Telugu. They said that unless you make it in Telugu, sir, the whole project will have no, meaning eventually. So it was jumping into the fire. I said, okay, let me try. Initially it was very difficult because, I didn't know the language. But again, the language of cinema is something you understand. I could follow from the expression of the actors that whether he or she is doing a mistake or giving the right kind of shot. And also I was lucky I had good interpreters. Always, translating, or whispering me, this is the situation. And after some time, and the film took, because of the funding, and film had war scenes, attack scenes, so many things. And we had very small budget. And we were, again, very romantic and crazy, taken up such a difficult project. So it continued for some time. At one point of time, I started understanding Telugu. Wow. I couldn't communicate. So when the producers, these two guys, two of them, had some financial problem, they were speaking in Telugu. I said, don't worry, I will manage it. I can manage with 5 feet film. Oh my God, how do you know? So initially it was difficult, but finally, and then it was unexpected. A film without any star, without any known actors, black and white, became a super duper hit commercially. Wow. So that was totally unexpected, beyond our imagination, wild imagination, I say, would rather.